Hey OHM, welcome to Chemical Safety. In this video, we are going to talk about chemical hazards, the Hazard Communication Program, safety data sheets, chemical labels, and PPE. Chemical safety is critical in the workplace. Whether you're in a hotel or a restaurant, or even a grocery store, a gas station, an insurance office, a movie theater, you name it, we're really all using cleaning chemicals to ensure cleanliness of buildings, businesses, all of the above. Team members in our portfolio who handle these products could work in the kitchen, engineering, laundry, and housekeeping, but not always. I know some of us have very small teams. Maybe it's an all hands on deck kind of situation, or maybe we do some cross training. And so, even if you sometimes work at the front desk, you're also maybe coming into contact with these chemicals. So, this is for everybody at OHM. Some chemicals can be hazardous simply by not being handled properly, and that's what is so critical about this is that we just need to make sure we're stepping back and taking all the information in so that we are able to handle these chemicals properly to prevent health problems. These could range from skin rashes and burns to coughing and asthma. So it could be a long-term situation if we don't do our due diligence to be safe up front. Chemicals can be hazardous if they irritate your eyes, skin, or respiratory tract, if they're toxic or carcinogenic, which is just a fancy word for cancer causing, if they're corrosive, if they can explode or cause fire, or if they can create low oxygen environments, basically displacing or chemically reacting with oxygen in an enclosed or confined space. When it comes to chemical hazards, there's two types. There's physical and health hazards. Physical hazards are going to include anything that would cause a fire, explosion, or reaction, something that would physically hurt the property, the building, and the people in it. So that's flammables, combustibles, compressed gases, oxidizers, and corrosives. And then on the flip side, there's health hazards as the other side of chemical hazards. So there are acute health hazards which damage rapidly from a short-term exposure. So maybe you're only exposed to it for 30 seconds, but you could get severe damage from that. So that would be an acute health hazard. And then there's another type of health hazard, which would be a chronic health hazard. And that's going to affect the body slowly through long-term exposure. So if you're in the same role, doing the same thing for 30 years, and then you retire, you may start to experience side effects of the exposure to a chemical hazard over the tenure of your career. Hazardous chemicals can be detected in a few different ways: visual appearance, odor, and monitoring, which is typically done by an outside expert. So you are able to detect hazardous chemicals, but it depends on the chemical and how it's being used as to how you can actually detect them outside of reading the label and the SDS. Chemicals are able to enter the body in a variety of different ways. So, absorption would come through the skin or the eyes. Inhalation is breathing those chemicals into your lungs. Ingestion, eating or drinking. That could even be an accident. Maybe a bottle is mismarked or not labeled, and it's mistaken as maybe a beverage instead of a cleaning chemical. And then injection, which would happen through punctures or cuts. So the right to know stations and hazard communication are posted throughout your OHM properties. You should likely see one of these binders and stations in the engineering department, in the kitchen, in the housekeeping area, in the laundry area, maybe in the front office. And this is basically going to be an outline of the framework of how to follow the hazard communication program, which would include keeping a list of chemicals that are used at your property and maintaining SDS or safety data sheets for chemicals that are used and included in that list that I mentioned just before. And then ensuring all team members have access to the SDS binders at the property. So if you are not sure where an SDS binder is located at your property, or maybe there's a a little hanging basket for it to go into, but it's not in there, that's something worth a conversation with your supervisor so we can make sure that we have everything we need to keep everyone safe and set you up for success. So the right to know and hazard communication is going to essentially outline specific work procedures, chemical label instructions. It will also help us understand the necessary PPE or personal protective equipment that we need to use in order to stay safe when using hazardous chemicals. And lastly, if there's a secondary chemical bottle that isn't labeled, we need to tell a supervisor or take care of it ourselves if in a role that is capable of doing that. But that's really kind of what the right to know and hazard communication areas are going to include. So chemical label instructions are really important when it comes to hazardous chemicals. The label instructions are going to help us understand proper storage, handling, and first aid for whatever chemical it is that we're using. So all of those are really important in staying safe and preventing any type of accident or injury or contamination into the body, or whether that's a physical or health hazard. We just want to prevent any accidents, injuries, and stay safe. And those labels will help us do it. Safety data sheets and PPE. The safety data sheets are going to include on them for a chemical what PPE should be used when using a specific chemical. That might be eye protection, gloves, a face shield, apron, or boots. Maybe it's all of the above if it's something extremely hazardous and dangerous. But always take a look at those SDS binders so you know what chemicals you are handling and how to stay safe when you're handling those. Chemical labels, we need to make sure that we're always following the guidelines for proper chemical storage, material handling, and first aid. When it comes to a secondary container, we need to make sure that that secondary container has the product name and hazard information. So I'm going to repeat that again because it's very important. And we see trends of a lot of properties always having a couple of bottles that are not marked. So if you pour a chemical from the original container into another container, maybe it is a multi-purpose cleaner and it comes in a big jug, but you pour it into a spray bottle so that you can take it and spray tables in a public space to clean them. If that secondary bottle is being used with a chemical inside of it that did not come with it and does not have a label on it, then we are responsible for labeling that bottle ourselves. So secondary container, even if it's a multi-purpose cleaner, even if it's vinegar, it doesn't matter. We have to label it so that everyone knows what's in the bottle. And it's going to need the product name and the hazard information that comes on the original bottle. The other trend that we've seen a little bit of, and I just wanted to touch on, is that eye washing stations, those need to be readily available because we should use the required PPE that is listed in an SDS, but sometimes accidents still happen. We get that. And we want to prevent those. But in the event that there is an accident and we need to be able to flush the eyes, those eye wash stations need to be inspected regularly and they need to be clean of all debris. Don't have them full of stuff. Do not have stuff stacked in front of them. They have to be readily accessible to team members in the event of an emergency where they need to flush their eyes out. So that is it for chemical safety for this month. But I would love to be available if anyone has any questions. Feel free to ask your supervisor, or you can always reach out at training@ohospitalitymanagement.com. Thanks for listening. Have a great day.